What's going on, guys? It's been a while here. I just started making this post on TradingView. Basically, I'm just trying to get this idea here flowing because it's just something I kind of just been looking into and trying to see if I could study. And there's obviously a pretty strong reason on why I would want to study this, and you should probably want to study it too if you see what I'm looking at. But this is something that I just wanted to look at. So Ethereum, obviously we know that it had a gigantic run up, right? And my thought process is, how can we find this pattern when it's either getting ready to potentially take off here, right? Or at the start of something like this that can give us the proper amount of time so we can accumulate before something or a stock or a crypto does something just like this. And one thing that I found in anything that you see that has this parabolic run like this right here is the start of that pattern. And it's pretty crazy to think that if we can find this same exact pattern right here, and then we start seeing this beautiful consolidation happening, it could be some confirmations that we need in order to get in this buying process right here. And this isn't something that, oh my God, I have to rush and get in. Of course, if you're right here, you have to rush and get in. Or if you're, up in this area, obviously it's a whole different ballgame. So I'm going to try to get into this because it's going to be like, I only have 15 minutes using this new recording app that I'm trying out here. So let's look at LUCID. Obviously LUCID has been great. I made some great money off of this, playing this thing throughout this whole run. Now, I didn't spot this pattern that I'm going to show you guys that is pretty damn similar to Ethereum. But one thing that I want to show you is, if we look at price action before this huge top, this is what we got right here. I mean, whether or not this is the proper trend line to draw, it's hard to say because we kind of went from this $10 range and then blow off and then come back. But however, it's very similar to what we just saw in Ethereum. You have this huge peak, your pullback to your trend line, your retrace, and then your breakdown, your flag, and then your accumulation, right? And then you take off into a parabolic run. Obviously, the parabolic run for LUCID was not as extreme as Ethereum, but same thing. Your parabolic run, your pullback to resistance or support, your retrace. If we threw on some EMAs, maybe it will look similar as well. It went a little higher than that, but that might not matter. I'm going to get into something that does potentially matter and see if we can find out if this is going to be another fractal playing out or not. And the same could go here, but I'm not going to get into that on Ethereum. But we have that break, we have that flag, and then we have our accumulation. We had that break, we had that flag, and then our accumulation. So right now, LUCID had potentially this similar pattern that's playing out right now, potentially. If we go off of this right here, we can see that whether or not you want to draw it from here or right there, we can draw it however. But what we see here is we have our big run, our pullback to potentially support, our retrace, and then our dip. Now right now it's holding in a pretty extreme area here, which is why I actually put in a swing trade here on LUCID. Yes, it looks scary, but this is an idea that I've had for quite some time. I've been posting about it on TradingView for a while now, and although I was flip-flopping a little bit with certain things that I was seeing, I was like, oh, if we can close up above this 42 range here and actually close a weekly above, this could be something bullish. But at the same time, we could be seeing something a lot worse that could pull us back to 2820s, which is my targeted area on the downside, which recently I just made a post when it was when price was right around 29 bucks. 29 bucks. That I'm looking for 29.40, and there was a reason I got to that price range. It had to do with a breakdown of a pattern, and then also had to do with potentially this range right here. So what we see here is that we had multiple wicks. We could never close price above this area. We could never hold it as support either, though. That's something to think about right now, and that's something I'm thinking about when I'm taking this trade. But basically, when we come down, we always come down very hard and break through it, and then reaccumulation. So now, could Lucid be potentially setting up for another reaccumulation zone here? That's possible. Now, what would happen in order to, what would happen potentially is, we could go into some type of, rising wedge, which would actually be some type of bear flag. It's obviously, this is speculation. There's no way for sure to say like how high this is going to go or anything like that. I mean, if we look at, that's where I'm going to try to figure out right now. So when you're taking fib retracements, you want to go from the swing low to the swing high, and that's going to pull in. It's going to pull up our fibs and show us where we could see potential support coming in. If you're trying to see an extension of the price action, you would go from the swing high to the swing low and see how high it could go. So basically, we can see the 0.702 was 26.29, 0.618 was 30.89. I'm going to do the same exact thing over here from this swing low here to this swing high here, because I want to see if there's any similarities here at all. So what we see right here is the 0.702, 29.03, which is, we obviously wicked below it. Our 0.786 is at 25.57, or if we went off of the fib from this whole move over here, we pull this across here, could do that as well, and go off of some of these fibs. Obviously, you can do it however you want. I'm going to just do this for an example, or try to see if we can find any measurements that would make any sense here. So when we pulled back from this giant top here, we came all the way down to the 0.786, and then we retraced here roughly above the 0.618. Right now, when we hit this point, we retraced to the 702, so there's not really too much similarities there yet. Obviously, if we did pull back to the 0.786, that might have looked a little bit different, but I guess that's not really going to work out as beautiful as I was hoping. But what we can see right now is that we're on this 0.702 at 29.03 roughly. We are pretty much right around the daily 200 EMA here, trying to hold support on it. I did put in a trade, like I said, and I got in at 28. I got in at 28.63 and 28.40. Those were my buy zones, and I'm just going to try a potential swing up either to this 0.618 at 32.49 or this 0.5 fib up at that 37.36, which to me could potentially happen if we were to have a rising channel of some sort and hit this 0.5 fib as a rejection. I don't know how high it's going to go. I don't even know if it'll make it that high. Obviously, I can't predict the future. I can just watch patterns happen on the hourlies and stuff like that and see how everything's looking. Right now, obviously, nothing looks too good. The only thing that looks good on it to me is that this previous point of resistance could potentially turn into new support. If we were to lose that, we're in danger of coming down as low as 25.57 or even lower, which could bring us back down into the $17 range where the main trend happened, would be way down here. And obviously that's a scary thought. But if this thing is going to do something of similarities to prior price action, this blow off, this rip back up, this pull down, then it makes a rising channel, and then it comes down for a lower low, and then accumulation happens here, and this point roughly where we couldn't close above becomes resistance. That would mean that this point somewhere up in this range of $42 would become the resistance, based off of this pullback to support, this rip, and then price action falls and it just tests it as resistance. So if we had the same thing, we had our pullback to support, our retrace. We couldn't close above 42.22. Now that would be resistance. If this does happen, then we would be looking at a pretty volatile swing move, roughly in this zone where it could end up accumulating right in here, however it happens. And this could potentially bring us up when we eventually closed above this point. That's just my thought process for now until further notice. There's no way for sure to say if it's going to be this point is the bottom or if we actually have to do something different where we end up using maybe the 37 as resistance. You know, this swing range from here was from 1754 to 2780, so that's roughly a $10 move. So a $10 move from 2557 would be 3557. Yeah, that's exactly $10, but I'm just not saying that's going to happen exactly. Or from 29 would be, you know, to 39 roughly, you know. So whether or not it does this exactly, it's hard to say. But this is just something that I want you guys to think about. Right now, I am looking for eventually, potentially, a retrace, whether or not it ends up becoming a bear pennant that ends up breaking us down once we hit that 3250 and then we go lower, or if we end up actually, you know, trending higher, rejecting here, that might prove to something to us. But this is just what I'm thinking on Lucid. So I just wanted to put this video out while it was fresh in my mind and while I was kind of thinking about it. I'm not trying to call a bottom. I'm not really, I mean, you could say I'm trying to buy a bottom, but, you know, in reality, this is just a trade that I'm trying out. I'll put my stop loss somewhere below 28.14 to 28.20, somewhere below this range here, which is really, it's 27.50, but my idea is to put my stop loss somewhere below this $28 range. I'm not sure how low it's going to go, but I'm just thinking we might get a bounce of somewhere soon, whether it ends up flagging back up to retest something. If we were to retest this pattern breakdown, this is roughly back up here by this is on a 1 hour, but you know, if we were to retest this 21 EMA on the 1 hour, that's all the way up at 33.50. If we were to come up to some of these other EMAs like the 200, that's roughly $39 roughly. So, and then you have your 50, and this is on a 1 hour, 36.80. If we pulled up the 4 hour, we might be able to see the 200 on the 4 hour is up at 35.33. So, I mean, there's a few different ways that this can happen, but the main key thing is that this trend was broken, and that's why we had this volatile move. I mean, this looks more clear to me if you look at it like this, because this wick here and these multiple wicks here. So this, to me, would show that if we came up, we would probably get resistance at 37.36 roughly, or watch this 35.50 as well. And then another thing we can look at would be this potential pattern here, which is pretty large. If we were to look at it like this, we would be saying that this right here could have potentially been, I mean, it's pretty ugly, but it could have been a large symmetrical triangle of some sort right here. Whether or not that's what's going on here, or if we just had a rising wedge that we came and back tested as resistance, that's possible. There's so many different ways we could draw this. If we were to go off of this, that's going to give us a nasty target, because that would be your target of whatever this is, which would bring you all the way down to $15. So that would be pretty brutal if we did do that. Now, what you want to see is you want to see price action come back and potentially back test this $38-39 as resistance, and from there you would end up seeing potentially a kiss of death that could send you a lot lower. But we have to just keep in mind that we could potentially just be making this, you know, this structure once again. So it's just something to keep in mind, but doesn't mean that we just go and buy this dip every single time it's here. We have to actually have proof, which would be, you know, start seeing consolidation. If it starts holding this as support for quite some time, we can pretty much say that this is what's going on here. But yeah, for now, that's all I got for you. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope this all made sense to you. This is just my idea. It's nothing guaranteed, of course. And I will be watching and potentially it will, if we see something actually brewing,